Hi, welcome to MathforAll, where everyone can learn more about math. Our adventure today will take us to solving systems of linear inequalities, which will involve graphs, solid and dotted lines, and some fun, colorful shading. The answers will not be a point like when we solve systems of equations. They will be an infinite number of points. But before we start, make sure you're comfy with drawing lines from equations. And if you're not, then check out my video on that. So if you're ready, let's get started. Systems of inequalities look like this. Solve y is less than 2x plus 4 and negative 3x minus 2y is greater than or equal to 6. A quick review before we start, because this lesson builds nicely on previous knowledge. Remember that inequalities have the alligators instead of equal signs, greater than, less than, and greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. We will use a solid line for the or equal tos and a dotted line for greater than and less than, indicating that those answers do not touch the lines. To solve these, we will simply graph each inequality, and the answers will be where the shadings overlap. We'll start with y is less than 2x plus 4. It's in our favorite form. My y-intercept is 4, so along the y-intercept, I put the point at 4. And my slope is 2, so from that point, I go up 2 over 1. I connect the dots as straight as possible. And remember that it will be a dotted line based on the less than sign, because it's not equal to. Lastly, I have to figure out where to shade. Since the y's are less than the line, I shade where the y's go down underneath the line. Beautiful. The next part of this will be a little bit more complicated. To graph negative 3x minus 2y is greater than or equal to 6, my preference is to get him into the useful form of y equals mx plus b, so I will solve for y. First, I'll move the negative 3x over by adding to both sides. For negative 2y is greater than or equal to 3x plus 6. Notice that I put that 3x first because that's the pretty form that I want. Now, you must listen closely. I have to get rid of the negative 2 in front of the y, and I have to divide to get rid of it. You must divide each term by negative 2 and remember to flip the alligator. The rule is that when we multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to flip those alligators. So, our equation transforms into y is less than or equal to negative 3 halves minus 3. We graph him on the same set of axes. Negative 3 is the y-intercept, then go down 3 and over 2. If you run out of room, you may instead go up 3 and backwards 2. Just be sure that if you have a negative slope that your line goes down. It is a solid line because it can equal it. Next, we shade. The y's are less than the line, so once again we shade underneath. The final answer is this pointy shape that is double colored. I personally enjoy either to make a cloud or a star with an arrow pointing to it to show my teacher that I know that this is the answer. All of the points that are shaded are solutions to both equations. Nice job. Let's tackle the same idea, but backwards. They will give us the graph, and we need to give them the equations. It seems like a nice little puzzle. Here we have instructions to write a system of inequalities for this graph. This seems impossible unless we take things one step at a time. For each line, we will get the equation from the graph, then decide if it's greater than or less than based on the shading, and perhaps the easiest step will be if it has the little line underneath or not, based on whether it is a solid or dotted line. Each of these lines will give us all the information we need, as long as we know what we're looking for. We'll look at this straight up and down line first. The equation of it is special because it doesn't have a y-intercept. Since it crosses the x-axis at 1, remember that the equation of a vertical line is x equals 1. But instead of equals, see how it's shaded right next to it, all the numbers above it, so the x's are greater than 1. And since it's a solid line, the equation is x is greater than or equal to 1. Let's do the same thing for the other line. He's a little bit more normal, where he will fit into y equals mx plus b. The y-intercept is 3, and that's my b. I pick another good point to figure out the slope. From one point to another, I go down 2 and over 3 for a slope of negative 2/3. That goes in front of my x. Now we just have to deal with the alligators. It's shaded right up against it, underneath it, so I know that it is a less than. And since it's a dotted line, it just stays a less than. The system of inequalities is x is greater than or equal to 1 and y is less than negative 2/3 x plus 3. Awesome job! Thank you for watching and learning how to solve systems of linear inequalities and getting the system from a graph. These really test your understanding, so come back soon to keep learning more about math.